Hi, my favorite second graders. Our last book in this series of Gale Gibbons author study, and it's called The Moon Book. And this one's kind of cool. Alexia is really into astronomy, so we've spent some time looking at the moon through her telescope, which is right here. That's Alexia's telescope right there. And we've taken it to a couple different places. Sometimes OMSI has stargazing, and people bring their telescopes and you can set them up, and then you can walk around and look at all the different things they have it pointed to in the sky. So that's pretty fun. We've done it one time and we had ours pointed to the moon, and it was pretty cool. We were able to take our cell phones and put it up to the part you look through and take a picture of the moon. It was really neat. So I haven't really looked through this book a lot, but one of the things that I did see that Gail Gibbons wants us to think about, which I'm also going to make our focus question, and it's can we be curious and learn more about the world around us? And the question is, why do you think the moon shines big and bright? Why do you think we can see that? So while I'm reading, think about that question, and I'll repeat it at the end for you too. The Moon Book by Gale Gibbons. As the sun sets at the end of each day, the sky becomes darker and darker, and many clear nights our moon shines brightly in the night sky. I don't know if you guys just saw the pink moon I think it was about 4 or 5 days ago. We all went outside and we were looking at, maybe that's a week ago. It was really beautiful. We went down to the Columbia River and looked at it and got some pretty neat pictures. A star burns gases that give off heat and light. The sun is a star. The planet reflects sunlight and revolves around the sun. Earth is a planet. Our moon is the brightest and the biggest light in our night sky. It outshines all the stars and planets, which appear as small points of light. Some planets have many moons. Earth has one. Our moon looks big and bright because it is so close to the Earth compared to the faraway stars and planets. It is about 238,900 miles away. Well, she answered that question quick, didn't she? So it says sunlight. The moon is about 2,000 miles in diameter and about 6,800 miles around. Earth is about 8,000 miles in diameter and about 25,000 miles around. The moon makes no light of its own to shine. It is bright in the night sky because it reflects the sun's light. It is about 1/4 the size of Earth. It is made up of a rock and dust. There is no air or sign of life. Most astronomers and other scientists think our moon formed about 4.5 billion years ago. Some believe something collided with Earth that tossed out a cloud of rock and debris while orbiting around Earth. The rock and debris came together to form the moon. In ancient times, people thought the moon was a powerful god or goddess. The Romans called their moon goddess Luna. In Greece, the moon goddess was Selene, who rode through the sky in a silver chariot. Some American Indian nations believed the moon and the sun were brother and sister gods. Stories and legends were told about the shapes and shadows that show on the moon's surface. Some people said the moon showed a man's face, the man in the moon, who was imprisoned there for stealing. Others told of moon demons living there. The moon is Earth's only natural satellite. It takes about 1 month for the moon to travel around Earth. The moon makes one complete rotation for every complete trip around Earth. This, the same side of the moon, is always facing Earth. The moon appears to change shape, but it doesn't. The different shapes we see are called phases of the moon. We are seeing different amounts of light being reflected on the moon. How much light we see depends on the position of Earth, moon, and sun. Phases of the moon. A new moon. During a new moon, the moon is almost directly between the sun and Earth. The moon looks dark. We see no reflected light. A crescent moon. The moon is waxing when the lit surface we see is getting bigger. In a few days, a bit of the sunlight side of the moon shows. It forms a crescent. First quarter moon. When the moon is a quarter of its way around Earth, it is in its first quarter phase. We see it as half lit. It is sometimes called a half moon. Gibbous moon. When the moon is waxing between first quarter moon and a full moon, it is called a gibbous moon. A full moon. About 2 weeks have passed since the new moon. Now the entire face of the moon we see shines. A gibbous moon. The moon is waning when the lit surface we see is getting smaller. When the moon is waning between a full moon and the last quarter moon, it is a gibbous moon once again. Last quarter moon. When the moon is 3/4 of its way around Earth, it is in its last quarter phase. Again, we see it as half lit. It is sometimes called a half moon. A crescent moon. Once again, we see a small silver of a moon shining in the sky. And a new moon. It takes the moon about 1 month to go through its entire set of phases. People used to know the time of the month by watching the moon's phases. The moon's orbit around Earth is usually tilted slightly compared to Earth's orbit around the sun. Because of this, the moon cannot exactly line up between the sun and Earth. But when the moon's orbit is not tilted and the moon lines up exactly between the sun and Earth, a solar eclipse happens. The moon's shadow falls on Earth. A solar eclipse can last up to 7 1/2 minutes. When the sun, Earth, and moon are exactly lined up, a lunar eclipse happens. As in a solar eclipse, the moon's orbit is not tilted. The Earth blocks off the sunlight that usually lines up the moon. The moon has a reddish glow. Lunar comes from luna, the Latin word for moon. A lunar eclipse can last up to 3 1/2 hours. The moon affects the oceans too. The moon pulls called gravity on the ocean is strong enough to cause tides. Tides are the daily rising and falling of the ocean waters. This is because the moon takes up about 25 hours to come back to the same place in the sky it was the night before. Tide differences vary around the world. Maybe some of you have been to Cannon Beach before and gone to Haystack Rock, and they have the different tides coming in and out. And when the tide is out, you can go and you can see all the little rocks in the little water that's left there, and the animals and starfish and the little crabs. Maybe you've seen that before. I went there recently, and we went to the little tide pools, is what they're called, and saw that. That was pretty neat. Some night sky gazers and astronomers can get a close-up view of the moon by looking through binoculars. Others look through telescopes. Some huge telescopes are used as observatories. A close-up view of the moon's surface shows dark patches astronomers call plains or seas. Other areas are covered with craters, mountains, and valleys. The moon's craters were formed between 3.5 and 4.5 billion years ago when meteors pounded its surface. For centuries, people have wanted to know more about our moon. In 1959, the Russian spacecraft Luna 3 transmitted to Earth the first pictures of the far side or back of the moon. There aren't as many dark areas on that side as on the side we see from Earth. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy made a commitment to put Americans on the moon before the end of the decade. At first, many Americans' unmanned spacecraft were sent. Pictures were taken. Then one landed on the moon in 1966. It sent back information about the moon's surface. The first manned orbit in the moon was made by Apollo 8 astronauts in 1968. On July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin of the Apollo 11 mission became the first men to walk on the moon. There were 5 more Apollo landings on the moon. The last one, Apollo 17, was in 1972. The astronauts did experiments and gathered samples. Astronomers and other scientists were able to learn more about the history and nature of our moon. On a clear night when the moon is in the sky, gaze up at it. We are still learning more about our closest neighbor, the moon. And that's the end of that one. So our focus question today was, what did you find out about why the moon is the big and bright to us? So I hope sometime that you, when this is all over and we can start going out and exploring again, that you'll get a chance to do one of the OMSI stargazing nights. It's a lot of fun. All right, that was the last one of this series. Our next one will be on communities. Have a good day, you guys. Bye.